And welcome in to another episode of Too Many Points here on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, and we have joining us once again, Marco Marquez and Justin Pemberton. This is basically, Sports Radio 810? Is this just, you guys are taking over the world?
Basically,
is that what's happening right here?
Basically.
Marco says do not put the stamp of approval on that. His higher-ups will not okay that.
I wish I was as good as some of the people, as the guys that they have on throughout the day. But no, I can admit I am no Seren Petro or Steven St. John.
Neither am I.
Those guys are at a whole nother level than we're at.
Exactly.
Hey, a radio show is only as good as the producers and the people who make sure it keeps running. So you guys do a hell of a job, and I'm glad that you guys have come on. You add a little bit of professionalism to the proceedings. I'm a big fan of just cursing a lot and just being mean to people. But you guys kind of keep us in the center lane. You keep us focused on pretending we're real sports experts. We're real sports talk radio guys. That's always good for me. I need those people that are reminding me that just because I'm sitting in my basement with all this random equipment doesn't mean I get to act like an amateur, as one of the Childish Gambino songs say, turn that horizontal, be a professional. I got to make sure to do that each and every time you guys help me with that. But we're going to get started talking about NFL Week 12. This was a fun week of NFL. I don't know if the other weeks were not as fun, or if I just had less work to do and was able to actually watch games with more focus. But this was a week that I felt like even some of those bad games were pretty entertaining this week. One of those games is the always entertaining, never going to be a blowout. And in this case, maybe the rudest backdoor cover we've seen in a long time. You got the Seattle Seahawks taking down the Eagles, but not before Carson Wentz throws a Hail Mary, and the god of Hail Marys, Richard Rodgers, pulls down another one. This time, I don't even know how he got there, but he did. And sure enough, they also get the 2-point conversion. They cover the 6.5-point spread. And I don't know if there's any other, big takeaways from that game. I guess the big thing would be, even with that final touchdown, when we look at how the Seahawks played, particularly defensively, that's 2 weeks where for most of the game, they're able to kind of shut down the opposing team. I'm not going to count garbage time, particularly when, the ball falls to the ground. They don't even get that, and the Eagles offense just looks putrid. We also know that that's how the Eagles offense looks, no matter what the defense is. So when you guys see those games, you see what the Seahawks done in back-to-back weeks. When you walk away, is there anything to take away from this game, or did the Seahawks just get the job done, and we're going to have to wait for the next couple games to kind of see, has that defense really kind of turned the corner and got them to the point where they can be a serious contender down the stretch? Marco, we'll start with you.
I thought last night's game was just kind of how we expected. This Eagles team is suffering at the wide receiver position. Also, Twitter haters out there, don't crap on Carson Wentz. He was one of the top QBs and then has suffered a leg injury. Let's light up on the guy, lessen the load up on the guy. But yeah, it's hard to do that with hardly any weapons out there. But the Seahawks team, I thought that, the defense, as long as they did well against a team that they're supposed to be doing well against, let's see what happens. They didn't have to play at their top best to win yesterday's game, and I think that they knew that. Remember, it was a double-digit game until the last second when Rodgers was just in the right place at the right time, and that's just from experience back at Green Bay as well. But like what you see out of the Seahawks, I think that this is a game where the defense just has to look at itself, and you know what? We did pretty good. We did all right for going up against a national football team in prime time. So if anything, it's a confidence booster for the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, he just did what he had to do yesterday. Chris Carson, getting them back into the workload. I thought they did well with him in the run game as well. But yeah, I think that yesterday's game just went exactly how we thought it would go.
All right, Justin, as an internet hater, I just can't accept Marco saying to leave Carson Wentz alone. But I'll let you get in and let me tell me if you agree with Marco or if you're with me and the rest of the internet in that Carson Wentz is a quarterback who right now is a career 35-31-1. I guess he got that tie this year, which might actually win them the division. We'll talk about that later. You have 62.8 completion percentage. So while he did have that 2018 year where he had 69% nice, the rest of his performance has not been very, very good. And you can look at it however you want, but you also have to remember this Eagles team was good enough to win with Nick Foles jumping in and getting in there to win the Super Bowl. When you have that and you're talking about the pieces around you, sure, you can say now he doesn't have the pieces. That's why he's playing bad. Also, he only has performed well when he had pieces good enough to lead Nick Foles to a Super Bowl victory. So I have to ask, Justin, do you agree with Marco? Do you agree with me? Is Carson Wentz, is he good, bad, or should we just hold out? Do we need to wait and see if he can get some pieces around him, if he can turn this around?
You also need to remember that last year they had to call upon a 40-plus-year-old quarterback to play in a playoff game. Okay, so that's a problem. Listen, I would have given more of a chance with Jalen Hurts last night. He only had 2 plays last night. I mean, I would have had him in there and try to see if he was going to light a spark on the team. I think there should be. Go ahead, Mac.
I believe he got a perfect completion percentage. Wasn't he 1 of 1? And they're still like, let's go with Wentz.
I don't know what it was. I can look it up here. I didn't quite pay attention to. I just know he was in there for a couple of snaps last night.
Yeah, he went 1 for 1 with a 6-yard completion.
Woo!
He's 100%.
Oh boy!
Okay.
100%. All right.
The new leader, I think.
Congratulations on that one.
Tua had the all-time accuracy, all-time completion percentage for 1 week there, but now you know who it is.
Hey,
we got Jalen Hurts out there at the top. But Marco says, keep it. You got the guy. You got the right guy. You just don't have the right pieces. I believe the announcers echoed Marco's sentiments that why throw in Jalen Hurts when you don't have the pieces to succeed. And I would say at this point it's because even without those pieces, we have not seen a Carson Wentz who is a pro quarterback. We have not seen a guy who's even slightly above average in 2+ seasons now, Marco. And so at that point, it's not about whether you're throwing in a guy to win today. It's figuring out whether Jalen Hurts is the guy, because it's hard to imagine you go in another year. If you're wrong about Wentz, if it's not just about the pieces around him and he's just not that guy, which might be because of the injuries, might be because we reacted too quickly when he had some okay seasons with a really great roster around him. But you have to figure that out, and you don't want to waste a whole nother year throwing it to Wentz, and you didn't even give a chance. You have games right now where you can figure out what Jalen Hurts is all about.
Hey, I never said he was a good quarterback. You took it out of context. I was just telling people to not be so harsh on the guy, because he's a human, and all these people out here slandering him, build him up. We need some more confidence in him. No, yeah, I'm excited. I can't build
up all 32 quarterbacks.
I can't build up the bottom ACL in an MVP season. He suffered a torn ACL in MVP season. This guy went through one of the worst injuries that an athlete could go through, and it's hard to come back from. I got no problem with bringing in Jalen Hurts next year, because I think right now the Eagles are probably moving in the right direction. They got the head, because that's what you do. You get your head coach, and then you get your quarterback. They just had to restart because of what happened to Carson Wentz. He's not going to be at the level that he was at because he suffered a knee injury, an ACL, a torn ACL. It's hard to come back from that type of stuff unless you're Adrian Peterson, where, that's just a once-in-a-generation type of player. But Carson Wentz, you guys read the stats. You guys know he's not good. He's not good. Maybe will be better off playing with the Jets or the Jaguars, because they know they could use a level up on a quarterback. No, you don't think so?
They could use some level up, but that's not a good place for Carson Wentz to restart this biz.
No,
if you're trying to get him in a situation to get it to work, you named the 2 wrong places.
And can we also maybe look at the possibility of his career, his college career, being kind of overhyped because he played at North Dakota State, and the fact that it's FCS football, you don't really play anybody, and maybe that's also kind of why the resume of Chris Kleiman, the head coach at K-State's a little kind of maybe, overhyped too, because it seemed a little bit easier at that level compared to playing the big boys in the FBS level, where you get more kind of prepared for your next part of your career. You kind of build up your body, all that kind of stuff. I just kind of look at that as a possibility, just because, again, it's North Dakota State. They don't play anybody, and maybe Carson Wentz just isn't as good as we thought he was.
I don't think so, because one, I just want to get all your sound bites of each time you've talked about Kleinman, where it's gone this roller coaster of he's doing great and then he's awful and maybe he's overhyped. And I want to get those, but we'll save K-State for either another day or later in the podcast when we get to in-state football. But I do want to say for Carson Wentz, I don't think that was. I don't think we overhyped him. I think if anything, I mean, there was a little bit of kind of the lack of tape could help you're whoever you look like when you first show up. The reason Carson Wentz was hyped high is because he played really, really well starting out for the Eagles. Before that injury, he looked really darn good. I don't think there were a lot of people who were sitting there saying, after watching him in North Dakota State, I think he's great. I think if anything, there were more detractors. There were more Justins running around saying, he didn't play anybody. Also, Josh Allen didn't play anybody, had worse stats, and right now he happens to be an MVP candidate. So there's a lot that goes into being successful in the NFL, and it's not as easy. There's no reason for me to look back at his college career because that doesn't matter. I'm looking at his NFL career, and I'm looking at maybe we overhyped him from the moment we thought, okay, when he's playing an MVP caliber, that's all about him and not all about everybody that's around him. And so it's up in the air to me. I don't know if it's about the injury more so than the loss of talent around him. He had to deal with both, and we probably will never know. It'll be very tough unless we just see Carson Wentz get it put back together and gets past that injury. We'll never know which thing was the bigger factor. Did we overhype him from the way he played in the NFL? But I don't care about his college career because once again, there are things you can take away that can help you figure out who to pick. But the moment he starts performing in the NFL, I don't give a shit what he did at North Dakota State. I'm worried about what he's doing for the Philadelphia Eagles. It started out good. It's not so good right now. Next up, I want to jump to I was going to say Seahawks if there's anything to take away, but as you guys said, there wasn't really much. I do want to knock out NFC East. We need to finish this, and I know we just talked about the Eagles for way too long, but I want to knock out NFC East. I don't want to talk about them again until we're at the playoffs. So I want to know right now who wins the division. Like, just tell me who it is, and we can just forget about the rest of NFC East games. I don't need to tune in. I don't need to look. I will know right now. Marco, tell me who's going to be slotted in for that ridiculous home playoff game by winning the NFC least.
It's Washington. They got the best of the QB situation right now, and we saw that. And they got a really good defense, underrated defense.
All right, Justin, I feel like you're going to have a similar answer based on what we talked about last week.
Yes. Same. Alex Smith, the story of him coming through, all the surgeries, of course, Ron Rivera battling cancer. And yeah, I mean, the defense is just playing out of its mind right now, coached by ex-Saints head coach Jim Haslett. But of course, Ron Rivera being an ex, or not an ex, but being a defensive minded guy, that just makes it even more better for that defense. And plus, you got the rookie Chase Young, who is playing so well. The D-line is the strength of that team. They got after Dallas in that Thanksgiving game in the second half. I mean, it was a complete butt whipping in that second half. And, of course, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, Dallas is terrible. And the McCarthy hire was a complete joke from the very beginning. And that just adds more fuel to the fire of just how bad the NFC East is, or as Mac would say, least.
All right. Here's the one problem. I'd agree with you. I have penciled in Washington is the best team, but I'm not sure if they win the division. Washington has the toughest schedule going forward. They don't get another cheap game against a divisional rival. That's already off. They're gone. They got the Steelers, which you could maybe say this is the perfect time to have to face them, because with this game continuously being pushed back, they might get to face the Steelers a couple days after they have to face the Ravens. But after that, you're going 49ers.
Yeah,
have looked depleted, but we've also seen Shanahan, when there's a deficiency on the other team, even the Rams, who are actually playing well, Shanahan can get a victory with this team. Or maybe it's just Shanahan is just that he's in McVay's head at this point. That might be a whole nother situation, and we'll also talk about that later. But Seahawks, Panthers, they don't have that clear victory until they get to face the Eagles again the final week of the season.
I was just going to point that out.
If the Eagles get some of their players back, and if Marco is right at all, that we're just over attacking Carson Wentz based on the people around him, they might be able to get themselves in a situation where they're able to take down Washington. And with that tiebreaker, that might be the only thing they need. That might be the difference in winning the NFC East. And so it's tough for me. I'd almost go with the Giants, but they don't have the easiest schedule either. They'll have that Cowboys that final week. That should be helpful. And then you have Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens. And then right now, I would put Browns as like the easiest team. They're 8-3. The Cardinals are actually the one playing the worst in that group there. You got just that Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, that 4 weeks. I can't imagine the Giants making it out of that ahead. But this might be a one-game situation. Whichever team gets that one victory might put them in the lead to end up winning. So they just have to pencil in Cowboys and hope to steal a game down the stretch. Cowboys have the best schedule, but are just so awful that there's no point in even talking about it. I don't know. I feel like I said last week that it was not based on football, but I would pick just based on history and what I know happens every year. The Eagles just slide in. And right now, with how tough the Washington schedule is, I'm going to keep with it. It's a long shot bet, but I'm not ready to say it's Washington. But Washington is playing really well. I just don't know how they get out of that schedule with, one win's going to be tough. And you're going to need 2 to fully clinch it. I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening with them. But right now, I'm just going to leave on the Eagles because I love long shot bets, man. That's my favorite thing to do.
But hey, it's 2020. Anything is possible.
What's the point of putting money on the easy bet in 2020? You're just throwing money away, guys. It's not even worth the thrill of it.
Right.
So we want to hit the next one up. We're done NFC East. Never talking about it again until playoff time. Packers, Bears. This is an interesting one because not only do the Packers get the 41-25 win, afterwards, Matt Nagy, we're going down the Andy Reid coaching tree. And I don't know if they're as bad as the Bill Belichick coaching tree, but they're making asses out of themselves left and right. Matt Nagy calls out the defense for its first bad game after he's a offensive play calling head coach with a terrible offense. And he's calling out the defense. So I want to know, bad look for Nagy, or do you think it makes a little bit of sense? And, you talk about what your team's deficiency was, and even though this might piss off the defense that have been holding your team up and keeping you with the job a little bit longer, he's still right for pointing out what was wrong. And yeah, the defense did not play very well in that game. Offense hasn't played very well in that game or any game before this season. So I don't know if Nagy should have came out. What do you guys think of Matt Nagy making those comments post game?
That is a bad look for Matt Nagy because come on, I mean, wake up and smell the coffee. I mean, at some point your defense will collapse. It can only hold for so long in so many games when your offense can't do crap. I mean, they can't throw, they can't run. I mean, that offense is a train wreck. So that's a terrible statement by Matt Nagy. And come on, you're facing Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest QBs to ever play the game. You're gonna get burnt. You're gonna get beat, and he's gonna have his moments where he's gonna pick you apart. So I mean, you might as well just take it as what it is. And to say that your defense, oh, this is your first bad performance, and oh, you stunk out there, that's terrible. No, offensively, that's where it all starts, and they just don't have a quarterback. They don't have anything offensively, and I wouldn't go there. That's terrible, terrible.
Yeah, I don't understand that method of coaching when you can just bash the guys, your players in the locker room, instead of just bashing them on the media, which is something what Bruce Arians is doing this year also. But let's not forget, Matt Nagy, that you're the person that you were the head coach that went after that quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky. You were part of the organization when they traded up to the third pick for Mitchell Trubisky. Let's not forget, and we can go back to what Justin was saying about Carson Wentz. UNC quarterback, not a lot of talent over there in ACC except for Clemson. But let's not forget Matt Nagy. I understand it. He's just he's got little man disease or something. He's just a grumpy guy, and he's definitely did not take the leadership qualities from Andy Reid. What do you expect? You're going up against a future Hall of Famer, one of the top quarterbacks that we've seen in the last 2 decades, in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you got to be able to keep up with them. You got to be able to keep up with that type of offense. And that's what the NFL is now. You can have a pretty good defense, a top 10 defense, but is your offense going to be able to have the firepower to keep up? And it all starts with the quarterback. So no, Matt Nagy, coming out like that is just bad coaching ethics, and it's a philosophy that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why bash your players on the media? Why bash your defense when you went out and traded 2 first-rounders for Khalil Mack? Like, come on now. That's just you're just going. That's not great coaching right there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fired at the end of the year.
That's fair. I will say that I think Matt Nagy's best defense is just blaming Ryan Pace for the Trubisky pick. But
right.
I think we're probably going to hit coaching a few more times because you brought up Bruce Arians. That'll be the next one up here. And then Sean McVay also had some choice words about his quarterback play in that 49ers game. So that'll be the next one up. But Chiefs beat the Buccaneers 27-24. Tyreek Hill, he broke my fantasy football app. I think after the first quarter, we have like big play bonuses. So he had 50 points at the end of the first quarter, and the app's trying to be like conservative, projecting the rest. So like, he can't keep this up all game. I don't know. 30 points the rest of the way. I don't know. Maybe that's reasonable. And then he still got 20 points the rest of the way. I was surprised. I thought, generally speaking, that's not how you would finish it up, but they kept going single high safety. It was actually a perfect moment for me explaining to my wife what single high safety is. I was telling her about how good Tyreek Hill is doing. I'm like, well, they keep playing single high. Like, wait, are they doing it again? And sure enough, as I'm explaining it, they throw it over the top Tyreek Hill. So perfect. They helped me teach my wife what that was. I don't know if that's what they were planning on doing, but they kept with it. I don't know what the hell they were thinking over there. And who's the quarterback that was just getting murdered out there and they just never gave him help?
Davis, number 24.
I feel so bad for that guy. Like, that's not fair. That's not a matchup you can do anything about. Like, it's not about how good you are. Like, you can't go after Tyreek Hill and not have somebody over the top. And I couldn't believe what was happening there. But somehow by the end of the game, it's close. Buccaneers get themselves in a position, and we get a few good things. Mahomes gets to have the ball in his hands. Everybody's yelling. This is Andy Reid's moment of he doesn't know what to do, and his conservativeness is going to screw him over. But you also have the classic football viewer that's like, you have to run. You have to run out the clock. You can't give Brady time. And I think either way, Andy Reid would have got killed. If you let Mahomes throw it and it's incomplete, you're an idiot for not running the time off the clock. If you try to run the time off, but you give it back to Brady and he wins, you should have been more aggressive. You have Patrick Mahomes at your disposal. Luckily, Patrick Mahomes is in that position right now where he's in fuego right now. He's on fire. He picks it up. He ices the game. I know those are mixed metaphors, but he gets the job done. And I don't even know if there's another quarterback in the league you'd ever tell, hey, this is a situation where you could run out all the clock. Never mind. Pass each play because we know you can get the first down, and that first down gets the victory. He doesn't.
Probably Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
Aaron Rodgers is in his prime, and I still don't know. I would still been leaning over to Mike McCarthy like, you might want to run it here, boss. It's tough, and Patrick Mahomes, he got the job done, and somehow the end of the game, the entire conversation is on Brady and Bruce Arians. That is the only place that we can look at what happened in that game. So we'll just start with the first bit of the Chiefs. We'll go positive, and then we'll jump on to this friction that we've seen all year from Brady and Bruce Arians. But Marco, what's the big takeaway from the Chiefs being able to come in, get the victory over the Bucs, and do it in that fashion where Mahomes gets to put the game on ice with his arm?
Just when we think that the Chiefs firepower once again just proves it again, and now it's like we've seen what I think we put the league back on alert. Like, all right, this is what happens when you're aggressive in coverage against the Chiefs. It's going to fail you. And Tyreek Hill is a top 5 receiver when he needs to be, or when he can be, excuse me. And, but I think it was just, I think it was clutch performance. I think was key. Big key was that they were able to close out a game where they were, almost looked like that they were going to give it up, and we were about to be in a tie. We were about to be heading into overtime, 27-27. But they finally learned to put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. Getting the big conversion to ice the game was huge. I like what I saw the little bit out of Le'Veon Bell out of the run and passing game. He made something out of nothing on that swing pass and I think he got the first down on it actually. I can't remember what quarter it was, but I like what I've seen out of him since we haven't seen much of him yet, and I'm looking forward to what the run game can become once we get to playoff time, because that's going to be huge. That's why you went out and drafted a running back in the first round. That's why you went out and snagged someone like Le'Veon Bell, so you can grow your rookie and you can keep the veteran legs healthy until you're going to need them. So the run game coming out and establishing that you have a different part of your offense now that is legit. I like it. That was my biggest takeaway. The run game is there for the Chiefs now.
And speaking of running the ball, how about that one run by Mahomes when he totally faked out a couple of those defenders when he acted like he was going to pitch the ball and he just braids it back? That was disgusting. No, but another good win for the Chiefs. I do wish they would try to learn how to not make games as close as what they are not supposed to be. I think next time if you want to run Black Pearl, just run the ball in, Kelsey. I mean, please, can we just run the ball in? You don't have to throw the ball. I know you were a quarterback in high school, but you don't have to throw the ball. Even though Mahomes is probably saying, "Throw it to me. I'm right here. I'm wide open." But just run it in. I mean, that's nothing too critical or negative to say about the game. But defensively, I think they could always still improve, and the stopping the run is still a weakness. Of course, Brady's going to still have his moments where he's going to get you. I know he's 43 years old, but I think that game should have been not as close as it was. But hey, I mean, when you've got Mahomes and when he's just throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill, the Kelsey and whatnot, I mean that's what's going to take care of the game. And I'm just so impressed with how Mahomes was just going out there, just slinging the ball, and he's just right back up there in the MVP conversation.
I think right now it's his. I think with the way the other MVP candidates have kind of slid down. I mean, they're the only other team, like when you have the criteria being not just you need to win your division, but you also need to be a 12+ win team. The Steelers and the Chiefs really only ones on track for that. You have Seahawks at 9-2. You could argue that or Saints at 9-2. They don't have an MVP player there. Then it's a bunch of teams at 8-3 that you definitely can make an argument for, but none of them have been perfect. None of them have had that play where it really does. Like, it looked like maybe Russell Wilson in the early going of the season was just going to narrative wise say that it was so impressive that you could give it to him. There's nobody else. So I think once again, with the way Patrick Mahomes has played, the way it has been perfect, and the way that he's going to be one of two teams that are probably 13, 14 wins. I don't know on the Steelers who to give it to. Maybe Chase Claypool, but or Minkah Fitzpatrick on the defensive side. I don't know, but I think it's Patrick Mahomes. I think right now he's not just got himself back in the conversation. He is the conversation. It's who can get themselves into the same breath as Patrick Mahomes. And right now I'm not seeing who that next person is. I think it's kind of a cluster between Rodgers, Wilson, and once again. People won't say Josh Allen, but Josh Allen keeps winning. So, I think he has to be right there. I don't think he's a serious contender, but I do think he's probably the next one on that list. In terms of the other side where Tom Brady, you mentioned it, he's 43 and people want to keep talking about he's old. They want to figure out who to blame when the Buccaneers are 7-5 in an NFC that is, jam-packed with 8-3 teams. They're that last team of fighting to see if they can still be a contender, but he's 27-41, 345 passing yards, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions. And while the interceptions could be a problem, like we mentioned, he got himself in position. And if Patrick Mahomes isn't able to be as clutch as he is, he found a way to get into a game where this should have, the doors were blown off in the first quarter by Tyreek Hill. This shouldn't have been a game. So when you have post-game people talking negative about Tom Brady, how much of that, how much is just from the previous weeks so they're just kind of building onto the narrative, and how much do you really have to question Tom Brady's performance when he has that stat line?
I think it is just stacking up from previous weeks. I mean, the Bucs were 7-2 at one point, and it was they were everybody's darling, everybody's team. Oh, they're going to be the first team to play on their home field in the Super Bowl. And I think Arians said it in the press conference after the game that you picked all of us at the beginning of the year to win it all. You picked us back in August to win the Super Bowl, and it just doesn't work that way. You gotta keep practicing. You gotta keep getting better. And that team's full of guys that are just not quite there yet. And it's actually really surprising because it's the second half of the season, even though they're now on their actual bye week now. So really their second half begins next week. But I mean, it's go time. And to see Tampa Bay, kind of lingering down the stretch here, that's not a good sign because you're out of options of playing tough teams to make a statement because rest of the way, you're playing easy teams. So even if you win those games, you're not going to be taking that seriously. And going into playoff time, it's not going to look very good for Tampa Bay. So, I mean, they kind of squandered their opportunities. And can we just say this is probably the worst broadcasting performance for Tony Romo because all game long, he's trying to.
Why?
All game long, he's trying to find ways to keep saying that Brady's like the second, still a top tier quarterback and second to Mahomes and all this stuff. And
I don't know if he ever said that. I feel like your quotes are pretty far off on this one, Justin. I watched the game. I don't remember Tony Romo saying he was the second best quarterback today. I don't remember him saying that.
Well, I mean, maybe he didn't say it like literally, but I mean, he was trying to like find a way to make it look like he was on that bandwagon. And clearly,
I think the broadcaster trying to be unbiased.
Well, Tony Romo is trying to correct what is an overreaction, I think, from people with Tom Brady. They have been very upset with his performance so far this year, and they keep talking about how he chose this. He went to a team with vertical passing with all these players, and the fact that he's not able to be even better, it's not enough to be better than what the Patriots did last year. He should be better with all of those weapons. He should be better than the guy across from him, Patrick Mahomes. And one, that's just stupid because nobody is across from Patrick Mahomes and better than him. It's just not. It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Patrick Mahomes is the best by a lot. And from there, then it becomes you're talking about a COVID offseason where I know Tom Brady got in more reps than everybody else was supposed to, but that's still not enough reps to learn a new offense, which is what he had to do. He's had 20 years of an offense that is his, that is built around him, that has all these things that he's learned, that he has receivers that they know, and if they get plugged into the system, they don't get to play until they learn. And now he's going, and not only are these new players, this is the Bruce Arians offense. There has been very little changing it to make it match Tom Brady. And the fact that he's done as good as he has done, and the fact that he's 43, I'm right there with Tony Romo. It's nonsense to put negative on Tom Brady and pretend like this has been a problem. If you want to do for the Buccaneers team, fine. There are things that they need to fix, they need to work on to be better than 7-5. But Tom Brady has done an amazing job when you look at every factor that goes into what he's had to do this year. And so Tony Romo being in a position of a quarterback, knowing what goes into learning an offense, getting everybody on the same page, of course he's going to come out and defend Tom Brady. He's not making the argument that Tom Brady's the second best quarterback. He's not even doing close to that. He's just telling you this performance is magical. When you watch it, you should be impressed. And I'm somebody, I'm right there with you guys. I want to see Tom Brady lose. I had fun watching it the few times that the Chiefs defensive line could actually get to him. I love those moments, but I also am not going to miss the opportunity to watch Tom Brady do something special, which is be 43 years old, go to a new team with vertical passing routes. And if you're talking about him being 43, he's still throwing it. He's throwing it better than he has in the last 3 years. So just those conversations, whatever sort of analysis you want to do, fine. But I'm not even sure who these people are that were saying Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. I didn't hear anybody having that conversation before the year. Occasionally, it wasn't that nobody said it, but it definitely wasn't the overwhelming opinion that the Buccaneers were the front runners. If anything, it was just kind of a joke. There's you got Tom Brady, you got Mike Evans, throw Rob Gronkowski in the midst. Looks like a Super Bowl team. Nobody was sitting there for sure telling you because nobody could be for sure. Nobody knew what this team would look like until they saw them on the field. And when you saw them, they were much better than anybody could expect them to be based on all the changes that you have to make when you bring in a new quarterback and you try to go out there with a shortened offseason the way that they had this year.
Well, do you guys watch Good Morning Football on NFL Network?
I try to avoid it. Yeah. Are you saying that those three convinced you that everybody believed the Buccaneers were going? So the one guy who's picking Chiefs Buccaneers because he thinks it's fun. I don't even know the guy's name. He's promoting the Chiefs every week, and I still hate the guy. That's how bad he is. So you're telling me that's the guy that convinced you?
The three guys that are on that show, they all picked Tampa Bay as their NFC champion. I swear.
Yeah, and all the guys on Fox Sports picked the Saints, though.
Yeah.
Well, they're smarter.
Apparently.
No. I picked Green Bay.
That's not a bad pick either. I mean, picking Aaron Rodgers.
Who did you pick?
So is Buccaneers a bad pick?
Yes. Because
now one game different.
But we've never seen a team to this point yet to play in their own home stadium for the Super Bowl. And the closest one to do it
that has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with this team. That does not change whether the Buccaneers can make it to the Super Bowl. You think because it's located in Tampa Bay, what is somebody going to trip them? Is somebody purposely making them not make it? Because that has no bearing on whether they can make it to the Super Bowl this year.
It's not. It's not.
I think we knew Miami wasn't going to make the Super Bowl last year at the beginning of the year,
and that was because of how they played, not because it was located in Miami. Come on, Justin. That's not a football opinion. That has nothing to do with how good they are.
It wasn't just based on that. It's also you're adding an old Brady, old Gronk, and you're adding all these new pieces. I mean,
that's fine. They're 7-5.
It looks good on paper, but
so they're 7-5 despite all those new pieces. So that means theoretically they should have the ability to keep getting better, to keep improving, get more chemistry. So they should be better than their 7-5 record to this point. Is what you're saying? They've lost the last two games. They were you mentioned it. They were 7-3. And no, I think is 7-3.
They're on a two-game
beat the Panthers. Yeah, they beat the Panthers. Mm-hmm. Then it was 2 3-point losses to the Rams and to the Chiefs. Those are playoff teams. So I don't know how when you look at that, you see, well, that's not a Super Bowl team, but the Packers are. The Packers who got the brakes beat off them by the same Buccaneers team that you think is not a Super Bowl team. I think every team in the NFC, you're just throwing at a dartboard. So I don't think the Buccaneers is any worse a pick than the Packers or the Saints. And I think maybe the Saints is the best pick. But you also have Drew Brees, who needs to come back off of a rib injury, a punctured lung. And, I think it's impressive that they keep winning even with Taysom Hill in there. But I don't think that tells you that they're a lock to make it to the Super Bowl. So I think the NFC is it's all over the map. And then on the AFC side, you're either going, let's go with Patrick Mahomes, who keeps winning, or we'll go with the Steelers, who at this point, nobody's proven they can beat them.
Going back to the Saints, just real quick, and especially with the last few years of their bad luck in the playoffs, when they had the officials, not being on their side, and of course the miracle in Minneapolis happening to them. So I don't know. The NFC is crazy. I mean, that is a strong conference, and it's not as good as the AFC. I mean, it's better than the AFC because it's really just the Chiefs and the Steelers. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's crazy.
Well, I think in fairness, it's Chiefs and Steelers are the only ones who I really see as good picks to make the Super Bowl. But that doesn't mean they're better than the rest of the AFC. The AFC is also top heavy with as many 8-3 teams, 7-4 teams, 7-5 teams. They have a lot of good talent too. It's just they also have two clear front runners, and the NFC doesn't. Like the closest one, like I said, is the Saints, and their situation they're in makes them where they're not the clear front runner. But do we want to talk about Saints-Broncos? Do we want to talk about this old school game? No quarterbacks. I just start with the first one. Should it have happened? Should that game have been played where there is no quarterback for the Broncos? Do you feel like the NFL made the right decision with saying, you guys failed to wear masks, this is on you, we're not going to delay this, you have to play, and throw out Kendall Hinton, I guess?
I applaud the NFL for doing what they did, because their basic thing was you're not following the rules, you're not doing what we want you to do. So you're playing this game without any quarterbacks. I mean, as much as of how bad that looks for the NFL, I applaud them for just putting their foot down on Denver and saying, "Hey, you're not doing the right things here." So regardless of who's out, I mean, you're playing regardless. So.
What's your opinion on the NFL constantly moving the Ravens Steelers like they're changing dentist appointments? What's your opinion on how they've handled the rest of these games?
to be honest, I mean, all this wouldn't happen if teams would just do what they're supposed to do. I mean,
they've ruled that the Ravens did. They're ruling that the Broncos quarterbacks are the only ones. That's why they've moved the game, is because this can happen. You can get outbreaks. You can have this. That's the risk you take trying to play in a pandemic. But if it's not deemed to be your fault or a grave error on your part in terms of following the protocol rules, we will try to work it around to keep moving it and make sure that the game play. They're basically saying we're going to play no matter what, and we're not going to week 18. I don't know what they're so scared of week 18, even though they for years been trying to add extra games to the schedule, but apparently week 18 is too scary for them. I think with that setup, I could agree with you that they at least held the Broncos accountable, but let's not start blaming these other players for getting COVID when we've yet to have anybody say specifically that they did something horrible to make it happen. This is going to happen when you try to play in a pandemic. There are going to be teams that have outbreaks, that have this. Like, that's part of the game now. That's part of what you've decided to do by having an NFL season.
Yeah.
Marco, how have you felt about it?
That's how I feel about it. Pat Shermer's offense coordinator. I guess I don't know. I guess I'll maybe watch the Broncos this week, catch them on Red Zone. But hey, Kyle Shermer's back, former Chief. Woo.
Yeah. Woo.
Oh, I guess I will be watching this week. They play the Chiefs.
I still wanted John Elway to have to come out of the press box and play quarterback for at least one play, but we didn't get it. NFL does not care for they want us to watch garbage football games where they didn't let a quarterback play, but they can't give us anything fun. You couldn't let the Broncos pick up a random flyer to be quarterback. Right. It's not fair. Like, just at least be entertaining if you're going to do stuff this stupid.
Did you catch the story that the league forbid the Broncos for letting one of their assistants to suit up? The Broncos were wanting to
the quality, the offensive quality control coach.
Yeah.
Let him play, guys. It's better than Hinton going out there having not played quarterback in forever. I mean, I get he was a high school state champion at quarterback, but Jesus, you can't just throw him back there. There's a reason. I guess that turns us to another question. I was going to save this for when we talk about the Browns, but we're just not going to talk about the Browns. Somehow they keep winning. Baker Mayfield keeps throwing bad passes. The one that they keep showing, though, and I think it was not to put you guys in a rivalry, but at 6'10", Carrington Harrison, he had could you make this pass? That Baker Mayfield guy wide open in the end zone, like 15, 20 yards down the field. Could you make it? And so I'll just start with Marco. Marco, can you complete that pass?
No, I'm not an NFL quarterback. Can you beat Kendall Hinton
and get one completion? You can't do it?
I don't even know if my hand can fit on a football or hold an NFL size football. I don't know. No, I'm never going to say that I can make a throw.
In the NFL?
I mean, I got a decent arm. I mean, I'm not Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I've got an arm. I remember a long time ago always.
You should suit up for the Broncos.
Yeah, they just could have played.
No, thank you for that. I don't want to be part of that dumpster fire.
You're too good for the Broncos. I love it. That's great. Yeah. So I mean,
if my footwork is right, and if it's right there on the money, yeah, I could make it. But
you can throw it off your back foot.
So here's my answer immediately after, which is I know I can complete the pass that is that 15, 20 yards. I know that I can stand there, throw it, and connect with the wide receiver. Can I do that while there is a huge defensive lineman pushing a huge offensive lineman into my face? Of course not. Now, if we go to the other conversation, which was, can you complete a single pass throughout a game? I feel like this is a tough one. I feel like this is kind of like it's in that, comparing the worst team in the NFL versus the best team at college, where you're like, well, this is impossible, but maybe this would, it's like there are certain things that would be impossible to accomplish when people do these hypotheticals. But I think if you just need me to complete one pass over the game and you don't care if I'm even worse than Kendall Hinton, if I'm one of like 30 and you just keep having me do swing passes for a while, I'm bound to complete one of them. like do one of the little toss forward plays. I guess that's where it kind of got more murky was people started making arguments. Well, it's like, are we getting rid of like an Andy Reid type pass? Because I think Andy Reid could get me 3 completions. They're not gonna be real plays. They're gonna basically be running plays. But I think he can get me 3 completions. I can't make the pass Baker Mayfield did because the moment that offensive lineman is a foot from me, there is an accident running down my leg, and that ball is going straight into the back of my offensive line. No doubt in my mind.
Peyton Manning just drop sack. The old Peyton Manning drop sack.
There's no doubt. I can't. It's a different question. Can I make that pass? Yes. Can I make that play? Like you put me in Baker Mayfield's shoes, it looks much worse than what we saw from Baker Mayfield when he missed up. But the other thing being, I said we would talk about coaches. We keep going down the line. The 49ers end up getting the victory over the Rams. Each week I kept betting on the Rams. They had kept paying dividends for me. Finally, this 49ers team beats them because apparently Kyle Shanahan has Sean McVay's number. That's the 4th straight win. This has been in sickness and in health. To death do they part. Shanahan's going to beat Sean McVay. It doesn't matter. Like at times he's had a better team, but we've also clearly from this week he's had the worst team, and he's come in and handed Sean McVay his ass. Now McVay had a similar moment to Matt Nagy, although I feel like his is less criticized and rightfully so because Sean McVay has elevated the play of Jared Goff for years, and finally after this loss that was pretty largely on Jared Goff's shoulders, Sean McVay just comes out and starts saying that there's certain plays you just can't have. You can't have not looking up the field and making blind throws and not seeing that you need to just throw it out of bounds and basically listing everything that should not be describing a starting quarterback in the NFL, let alone a guy who's making tens of millions of dollars from your team. So when you hear that from Jared Goff and you see the Rams lose a quarterback battle between Goff and Nick Mullins, you take more away from this from Kyle Shanahan just being a better coach than Sean McVay. You take more away from this that at some point Sean McVay needs to find a way to get a different quarterback than Jared Goff, even if the contract situation makes that next to impossible for the Rams.
I think Kyle Shanahan's just a pretty good coach, a pretty darn good coach. Nick Mullins at quarterback, but he's a running back coach, so he still knows how to run an offense even when he doesn't have a quarterback, unlike Sean McVay, who puts so much reliance on Jared Goff that they're willing to make him a top 5, top 3 paid quarterback in the league, which I never understood based on talent level, because again, you're putting weapons around a mediocre quarterback, which is going to work at some points, but it's also going to come to bite you in the ass, which it does now, which is showing. Because it's showing because the Rams are a pass defense. They got Aaron Donald, but the run defense just wasn't there for the team. I think Kyle Shanahan's just a better coach than Sean McVay, and Sean McVay, bit off more than he could chew after that Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, there's not much really for me to take away from on this because, it's just simple. The Niners wanted it more. They just came out and they played better and give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit. It's like what you just said, Marco. He's the better coach. And, sometimes you just can't explain how things go in the NFL. They just do. And just certain teams have another certain team's number. It's weird to say because look at the injuries this year to the Niners. So you're thinking, right off the bat, the Rams, though they should win. But sometimes it just comes down to who wants it better, who wants it more. And the Niners are just playing tough right now, and they're staying in this crazy divisional race and this playoff hunt. So I give all the credit in the world to San Francisco, who's now having to fight for their lives. Playing elsewhere, playing in. Arizona Stadium now in Phoenix, and it's just crazy. And the comments from McVay are, I don't think they were harsh at all. It's just the coach is wanting to, prep up his guys to play better, and Goff's got to play better. Otherwise, the Rams will be on the outside looking in, or make the playoffs, and they'll be one and done.
All right. So another big moment of a team that should have had no shot pulling off the big victory. This will be the last topic before Marco runs away. But Falcons destroy the Raiders. And I said last week, this was my prime pick for a hangover game for the Raiders. I thought coming off the loss to the Chiefs, you'd put so much energy into that game that even though the Falcons aren't very good, that would be the team that could come in because they have an offense that works even if they lose games. I didn't expect this, though, because I didn't expect a blowout like this. I sure as hell didn't expect it to happen with Todd Gurley and Julio Jones both on the bench. When you look at this loss and you see by the end that Derek Carr gets pulled and they have to throw in Nathan Peterman, that's how bad this game went for the Falcons. You got Koo as the Falcons kicker. Mm-hmm. Like he's basically between him and Josh Allen, those are the only people keeping my fantasy team afloat this year. And I'm happy with it. It was a good day. But when you look at it for the Raiders, like how bad of a loss is it? Is this just that hangover game? Does the optics not really matter versus this is just one loss that they're going to have to get over? And, a lot of glowing things, even a loss versus the Chiefs. Do the Raiders come out of this better, or does this kind of make you question if the Raiders can be a true contender this year? Marco, we'll start with you.
This gave us a first look. I'm really interested what they are going to do after this week because they played the Jets, and if hopefully they don't lose to the Jets, or else that is an emergency. But then they play a team like the Colts, who's going to probably have Forrest Buckner back. We saw what Tennessee could do to that defense, and I'm interested to see if the Raiders could do something similar to that. Can they put up points on this good of a defense? I think, like you said, this one was a trap game for them. It was a highlighted trap game. Against a team on the road. So I'm very curious to see what more out of that Colts game. But I take a joy when the Raiders lose. I take a joy when the Raiders think they have a chance at the division each year.
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. It just shows, again, that the first half of the season does not matter in the NFL, really, if you are a true playoff team. And I think the Raiders are going to sneak into that spot where the NFL created this year, and that's that 7 seed. Which I'd be really hyped for if the Chiefs are the 2 seed, because that'd be an awesome playoff game. But anyway, it's just one of those things where I think the Raiders, again, they thought they were better than this team, and then they got humbled, and now they're starting to figure out that, oh man, we are just the middle of the pack road. I think Gruden's a great fit there. Listen, as a motivator for these guys, because that's a team that's always that the Raiders have always been. But I think we're starting to see the true Raiders team now. It makes me frustrated as a Chiefs fan, though, that the Falcons defense was able to do what they did to the Raiders defense and get to Derek Carr, how easy they did it. That's my only frustrated part about it.
All right, Marco, quick answer real fast, and I'll jump to Justin. But Marco, You said Raiders slide in that last spot. Patriots are the next one up as a potential team. If the Patriots can slide there and make it into the playoffs, is that a scary spot for the Chiefs having to face this Patriots squad?
No, I'd rather face. I'd rather face the Raiders, or rather face the Patriots and Raiders.
All right, fair enough. Justin, similar with this Raiders game. What was your big takeaway from the way they just got handled by the Falcons?
So let's go back to last year when the Raiders were in the same position like they were coming into this past Sunday. They were 6-4 or 6-5 or whatever they were. They were right there in the thick of the playoff, wild card hunt, and they're going into Arrowhead to play the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just absolutely blitz. They blitz them. They beat the heck out of them, and they were never the same after that. They lost 4 out of the last 5 or something like that, and they finished 7-9, and they missed the playoffs. So can we maybe say, even though the Raiders did beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead earlier this year, can we say the Chiefs are kind of the kryptonite for the Raiders down the stretch? Let's see what they do down the stretch this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Raiders stumble again like they did last year. And it wasn't shocking to me to see the Raiders lose. And I did pick the Raiders, not only on your last show that I was on, but I also picked them in this ESPN fantasy pick'em, the pigskin pick'em thing, whatever you call it. I picked them there too, and I'm willing to be wrong whenever I don't get them right, because I do love seeing the Raiders lose. But no, this wasn't shocking at all. And the Raiders are showing signs of being an upcoming team, and the Chiefs-Raiders rivalry is back. And I do like seeing that, but I just won't be surprised if the Raiders stumble like they did last year after they got beat pretty good by the Chiefs at Arrowhead. And this is another not so surprising example.
Yeah, I would say, like I said, I looked at it as a hangover game. It was bad though, so anybody who keeps their eye on the Raiders, wondering if this is a sign that they don't have what it takes, then that's fine. We'll see. But I would say let's wait and see what they do over the next few weeks, knowing they do have a good win over the Chiefs, a close loss versus the Chiefs. Like that means at the very least they can get themselves into a game with what I consider, either the best team in the AFC or they're the second best. But either way, you can get into a position to be one play away from beating them. That always makes you a contender. So unless everything falls off for the Raiders and they're much worse than they've been, then I'm still leaving them in that category. I'm not letting the Falcons really change my judgment of where I thought the Raiders were.
Well, I mean, aren't they kind of putting it all on Derek Carr a little bit, and the running game's not quite there?
Well, the running game was there. This is one game where it didn't work. And, that's tough because you have a guy like Gruden who he wants to run the ball, and you get stuck in a game where you're down and you have to make that decision. Do you keep running or do you put it in Derek Carr's hand and try to get him back? I think generally speaking, they've showed a balanced offense. This week it didn't show up. And like I said, without seeing whether that is from the hangover of putting, so much focus on that Chiefs game, I don't really know. So if they keep doing it, maybe things have changed. Maybe, teams have figured out the Raiders offense a little bit. Maybe they know once you shut down Josh Jacobs, maybe Derek Carr isn't as likely to take those shots down the field and make them work. We'll have to see. So unless it can be replicated, I'm not taking away very much from the Falcons game other than, it's a pretty embarrassing loss. They're going to take that. But also embarrassing losses in the NFL often push good teams to pick up their practice, pick up their play, and play much better in the weeks after. So we'll see what the Raiders do.
Sorry, I mean, we're just not so used to that because the last time the Chiefs had one of those games was 2016 maybe, on that Sunday night in Pittsburgh where they just got absolutely blitzed by the Steelers. We're not used to that.
Well, the Chiefs aren't losing many games, so we're not used to them losing at all. Right now, I was trying to figure out which is the best one to do. I want to very quickly talk about the Bills-Chargers 27-17, just because we just have to talk about that final sequence. You have a Hail Mary play. Herbert does everything he needs to do to get them potentially score, try to go for an onside kick, see if maybe they can get themselves back in this game. And you just have the worst clock management, the worst play calling, the worst discipline you've ever seen. And eventually, not only do they run with no timeouts left and let the clock run down, then with 3 seconds left, Herbert goes for a sneak, and the rest of the offensive line goes back in pass protection, and he just gets destroyed by the Bills defense. Like, when you watch something like that and a waste of a great Hail Mary play, Herbert just continues to try to make it happen, and it just doesn't matter. Like, I know it's tough to figure out, and it's always tough to try to say that a head coach should be fired, but how does your job survive when you're Anthony Lynn and you've had this basically be every week of the season? And as much as you want to blame, we had to turn to a rookie signal caller, you got blessed with a pretty darn good one, and you keep putting him in the worst situations that he's clawing, scratching his way out of, and he's rewarded with, you can't even get this team to understand what they need to do on the goal line, down 10, and you nearly got him murdered. I don't know who's at fault for that offensive line going back in pass protection, but considering how much we've seen this throughout the year, no matter who did it in this situation, these moments, these mistakes, all fall on Anthony Lynn.
Oh, absolutely. And, Mac, it always starts at the very top at ownership, if they really care about winning or not. And the fact that this guy is still coaching the Chargers, I don't know if it really means they really want to win. Because if they really cared about winning, they wanted to make change and have some different to light a spark under the team, the guy would have been gone by now. I mean, just too many mistakes. And I didn't catch the end of that game at all because I don't think it was anywhere near on here locally, the Bills and Chargers. So I didn't
get
really
that
get a chance.
Sunday ticket, man.
I don't have it, man. But so that's terrible. I mean, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of bad clock management here lately. Gruden had it last week against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, managed their game better. Bruce Arians was terrible against the Chiefs, this past Sunday night. And now here we are with Anthony Lynn. I
wouldn't even compare what Anthony Lynn did to either of those other two teams.
No.
Micro mistakes that end up costing you in the end. This is buffoonery that has happened all season long at the end of games, and not even at the end of the game. You could go through this entire game. There were probably three or four other moments that weren't in the final couple minutes that the Chargers put themselves into bad situations because of bad coaching, bad play calling, and not understanding the situation. I think they wasted 2 timeouts on fourth downs late in the fourth quarter. Before this all happened, they took a timeout after already letting the play clock run out. So you lost the time. Then they don't call, when they call the timeout, instead of taking the false start, they could have still made the field goal from where they were at. But instead, to burn the timeout to save those 5 yards, you get a slightly better field goal opportunity, and you've lost time and timeouts going down the stretch, which puts you into that last situation where all hell breaks loose. And I think they did the same timeout situation in the first half. So this is just constant with this team, and it's pretty crazy how bad it's been and how great Herbert has still looked in spite of it. So, kudos to him, but there's only so long you can go back there with all those things breaking down before you get broken. And I thought he might have gotten broken on that final play. Luckily, he was fine, but that Chargers team is not fine. They need to, clean house. I don't say that lightly, but you don't want to waste Herbert's rookie deal with a head coach who's not getting everybody to play up to their potential. Next up, I do want to I'll let you get your last thing, and then we'll jump into my final topic, which is just a look at who's a real contender. But Justin, go ahead.
No, I was just going to throw this out there as a possibility, and that's can we maybe say that the players have maybe quit on Anthony Lynn? Maybe, I mean, minus Herbert and maybe minus a few others. Can we maybe say that the team has quit?
I wouldn't say that. They're competing in every game. It's mistakes that are, they're sent out and put into bad situations, and they keep losing because of those. But in terms of the effort, you'd have to point to me to specific instances where it was an effort issue. They're being put into the wrong situation. They're trying their best. And, the pass protection, it wasn't like they didn't block well and let Herbert get killed. They were put in the wrong protection. They dropped back 2 yards, and Herbert's diving forward at a defensive line that isn't moved back because they're not run blocking. Like, that is a coaching problem. That is whoever told them they're not on the same page. And I'm maybe there's some parts where it's effort, but at this point, it seems like they're still shelling out, and it doesn't matter because Anthony Lynn is not putting them into a position to succeed. Then the next up, I said we'll go contenders. So right now, I think top 3 teams in the league, it's Steelers, Chiefs, Saints. I think even with Drew Brees out, I think the fact that they keep winning, I'll put them into that category. It's just, like I said, really hard to put money on them as the favorite when you still don't know if you're going to have Drew Brees back and healthy for the playoff run. But that's still the top 3. From there, you have 5 8-3 teams. And you have the Titans, you have the Bills, you have the Browns, you have the Seahawks and Packers on the NFC side. Of those teams, pick one. Who is the real contender to compete for a Super Bowl this year?
I'll go with last year's Cinderella story. I'll go with the Titans. I mean, they are just they're playing exactly the way they are, and they're not apologizing for it. They're not going to change who they are, and I really like that about the Titans. And of course, Derrick Henry. What can we say? I mean, the ultimate best running back in the game. They play physical, and they absolutely took it to the Colts on Sunday. And I was actually expecting that to be a close game like it was last time down in Nashville. Actually, was it close last time in Nashville or no? Did the Colts?
I think the Colts, I don't know if it came down to the wire, but it wasn't a blowout. Colts did not win by a lot, I don't think. I could be
okay.
wrong.
Yeah. So, but the point is, I was expecting those two to be in a tight battle, but Tennessee absolutely just took it to them. And I think right now, I mean, outside of
34-17. So it was a decent.
Okay.
But not a blowout.
Okay. But outside of the Chiefs and Steelers, and I mean, okay, of course, I mean the Browns, and there's some others you can maybe look out for. But I think to me, the third best team in the AFC is the Tennessee Titans, and it won't shock me if they find a way to make another deep run into the playoffs. Maybe meet up with the Chiefs again in the AFC Championship game. Maybe I'm not penciling it in, but I'm just saying maybe it's a possibility. But I really like that team.
That's fair. And I think, honestly, if I was to pick, and like if there wasn't conferences, if there wasn't this, the way the games will have to be split, if I was just trying to figure out who are the best teams in that group, like I think the average person would go Seahawks, Packers. But I think, honestly, the Titans and the Bills are better built. And I think even the Browns, where I think they have the lower ceiling, I still feel like they have the higher floor than the Seahawks and Packers. I feel like the way the defense is built and the way they know we need to run the ball, and Baker Mayfield, like, we have to play within what he can do. And, I think Stefanski is getting closer to getting Baker Mayfield to play within the system well. There are those missed throws, but he's also made throws. Mm-hmm. And so I would argue, I mean, it's probably not the Browns, but I think the Titans and Bills for sure are the better teams. The problem is those three are all in the AFC. Like, if I'm picking a Cinderella, I'm picking a Super Bowl contender. I'm thinking it's Chiefs, and then if it ain't the Chiefs, it's the Steelers. Like, that's how I would pick the hierarchy. It's like either the Chiefs make it, or if they fall, like, I just imagine it's the Steelers to get through. So I have a hard time imagining any of those three doing it. Then it becomes difficult on the NFC side, because I don't even know if the Seahawks and Packers are better than the next group of teams. We talked about it earlier with the Bucs being at 7-5. There are 7-5 teams that I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if either of these two squads are better. I would have to go with the Packers just because I think they play the more complete game. I think you have Aaron Rodgers, who this year is back to MVP form. I think at times the running game hasn't gone well, but Aaron Jones also is a guy who, when the situation is right, has dominated in the run game. So you have that as a possibility down the stretch. The defense has gone back and forth. They've had some bad games, but they've also had times they've made the right plays at the right time, and they have talent there. So with the Seahawks, I would need a couple more weeks to see if this defense, like we said, they've played better the last 2 weeks, but one of them's the Eagles. That doesn't count. If that defense is better, I might change my answer to the Seahawks. But for now, I think it's the Packers. I think, with knowing that the NFC is wide open to me, I would not pick the Saints. And so that gives me more, whichever team it is has to come from the NFC. And I would say right now the Packers have a slight edge over the Seahawks. Although, like I said, I'm not sure that they're better than the Titans and Bills. I'm not sure how much better they are than the Browns. That's the weird spot we're in with these 8-3 teams right now. But that's what I would pick. That's what, if we redid Super Bowl bets, I think I still would have Chiefs. And then on the NFC side, man, I think I'd pick Seahawks to start the year. I'm not moving. There have been a lot of reasons for me to budge, but because there's nothing that pushes me to another team, I'm keeping with the Seahawks, which that's a good way to hedge my bet. Pick Packers as the real contender here, but keep Seahawks as my Super Bowl team. That's the number one way to win at betting is, bet two ways and then pretend like you got it right. Any other NFL stuff that we need to hit before we get on out of here?
I was just gonna, kind of jump in on your point with the Seahawks. They're definitely a team that can make a run, especially with this defense. I mean, if they play the way they did, of course, I know you said Eagles don't count, and I agree, because the Eagles are just playing absolutely terrible. Of course, they're in that awful division. But if they play the way they have last 2 weeks, and if Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf continue to, dominate, and then, of course, you get former K-Stater Tyler Lockett, involved, and he can have a big game every now and then, like he did a few weeks ago when he had, 50 fantasy points that one night against the Cardinals on that Sunday night. I think it was.
That probably was.
When he had 3 touchdowns. He had 15 receptions for How was he? Almost 200 yards, something like that. I got beat bad because of that. Thank you, Tyler. But yeah, Seattle is definitely a team I think nobody wants to play come playoff time. That's only if the defense can continue to get better and just keep stacking their performances and just getting better, and better. Because we know the offense, they're going to score because Russell Wilson is one of the premier quarterbacks in the league. And they've got one of the best duo receivers, as we just talked about, or as I talked about, with DK Metcalf and Lockett. So they're a team on the lookout.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, I'll leave the Seahawks penciled in there as my Super Bowl pick, and we'll see if they can keep that defense going. I think the scary part would be that the first game that was a good defensive effort was keeping Kyler Murray in check, and he's been kept in check 2 weeks in a row. So now it's starting to wonder if maybe it's more tape on Kyler Murray. They've started to kind of limit what he does well, and take at the very least they're taking him out of the MVP conversation. We'll see if he gets off the snide this week, and we'll see if the Seahawks performance against him was something to be impressed with and something to take away as the Seahawks improving down the stretch. But a lot of questions that we still have even after 12 weeks of action going down the stretch here, that we're getting into the fantasy football playoffs. So I assume we're going to be a lot more on edge for future conversations. We're also going to start talking a little bit more. NBA is right on the horizon for them starting their season. I can't believe they're already going to try to get back in there, but you got to make money, I guess. NCAA right now, you got the basketball going. So we're going to have conversations about that. It's weird. I'll definitely have more conversations about NCAA hoops than football, just because, like I said, I enjoy watching NCAA football, but in terms of knowing what's going on, I'm so confused half the time. And my favorite team to watch, KU football, is not good talk for a podcast. That's not how you get viewers. So we haven't talked too much about that, but we will jump in. There are some good conversations. I think on Thursday, we're going to try to hit, college football playoff talk. Right now, Ohio State might not even get enough games to be allowed to play in their conference championship or be eligible for the college football playoff. So there's a lot of interesting things happening. As always, everything is pulled into the gravitational pull of COVID. And so we'll have some conversations there about kind of what the NFL is looking like. Do they get that game, Ravens-Steelers, tomorrow night? Will we be able to recap that on Thursday? Will there be some issues with KU playing against Kentucky in basketball and just coming off a performance where they were in contact with a team that is now in quarantine, had a COVID positive? We're going to have to face that in even more sports as we get going. There's going to be more of those stories, and we'll start talking about those. But that'll be on Thursday's episode. So tune back in same time around the noon hour. We try to get in our sports talk with you guys. So fans, make sure you come back, and we will definitely have too many points for you on the Tell Me More podcast. That's all we have for today. Later, folks.